All right, we are live. Welcome back to the channel, man. I got my great friend Jeremy Sean A here joining me today to discuss the Broncos' huge win yesterday. We're definitely missing David with David at Talks Broncos. He's still kind of battling some illnesses and stuff. But Jeremy, I appreciate you joining in, man.
Of course, yeah. Hopefully David feels better.
Yeah, it was crazy. It hit you first. It was affecting you for like,
Oh,
it felt
dude,
like a month.
I had it bad.
And then now our buddy's got it. So I guess I'm next in line, but we'll see if
Well,
I'm able to.
he's down in San Antonio, so maybe it moved down south.
Yeah, hopefully went a little south from here. But yeah, man, I just wanted to kind of get your day after thoughts. I think one thing for me that really stood out with this team in the win yesterday was just how much of a youth movement this is.
Yeah.
How many young players are really stepping up. Really, aside from Cortland Sutton, it's just been a bunch of young guys. What's really stood out to you in terms of these young players, and uh, and do you think that it can continue, or do you think there's more to come in terms of maybe some other guys that are ready to step up?
Yeah, no, I totally think so. And I what's so great about it is, to start the season, we kind of knew going in this is a shed cap year and develop young guys type of year. And what's awesome about that is he hasn't changed that trajectory or that mindset even with success, and we're having success because you're 8-5 and now you have the playoffs all in front of you, and you're not like, oh, we got to try to let's just play the veterans and like at the expense of you know opportunities for the young guys. It's like, no, we're doing the opposite. So
Yeah,
I love that, and I think it just inspires confidence in the younger guys too. Like if they're willing to, move on from Josh Reynolds or whatever the situations are, or just the playing time and how many plays there's people are saying, I would be, if I'm Devon Bailey, if I'm Troy Franklin or any of those guys, um, Jonah Ellis's, any of those guys, I would just be like very thrilled with the fact that it's like I'm like a solidified member of this team. I'm not somebody who hopefully next year I'll get to see some playing time.
yeah, no doubt, man. I think I like that move. I'm glad you brought up the Josh Reynolds move because I felt like it came at like a little bit of a surprise when I had first seen it because I was like, whoa, I didn't anticipate that was the case. But immediately I was like, this totally makes sense. I think we've talked about it a lot of like, what does it mean if you have, it does keeping somebody like even before the season, right? Does keeping somebody like Javonte Williams, does it hamper young running backs like, Bidet and McLaughlin and Estime and Blake Watson? Or, it's the same kind of thing with that wide receiver room is it was like, man, on paper, we didn't know if it was going to be very good or not. There's a lot of unknowns, but it's also so important to be able to know what these players can do. So I thought it was a really smart move. It's very consistent, really, with what I think that they've been wanting to build. And I love the fact that guys like Devon Vele and Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims can continue to get those opportunities. And who knows, we might even see some AT Perry, in the coming days as well, coming
Yeah,
weeks.
I mean, there's been certain guys like that. They're like, when you make the signing or Donald Parham, you're just like, what are we waiting for? Like, let's get him on. Let's get him on the field. But, you can't complain. You won 3 games in a row, and, you
Yeah,
know, he seems to be pulling the right moves. So,
yeah,
um, it's interesting that you move on from Josh Reynolds because you had to make the decision. And yeah, I honestly think it was like, well, if we keep him and then he kind of does, even if he does the exact same things he was doing before the injury, is it really worth, 4.5 million for this rest of this year and next year?
no
Another
doubt.
4.5 million?
And
I
does
don't
it
think
does it
so.
mess up the mojo of the team, right? I mean, you feel like Bo's
Right.
finally getting like I feel like he's had a really good rapport with Sutton for several weeks now, but he's really starting to find that groove with the other guys. So it's like, do you really want to mess it up? Which is why I thought there was a possibility when I noticed that they didn't activate him for this week's game and they had to make the decision, I think by tomorrow. I was like,
Yes.
all right, well, maybe they just wanted to give him more practice time, or whatever, or maybe they would just keep him on IR. But the fact that they flat out cut him was a little bit telling. So it could have something to do with the shooting incident. I know they were doing some investigations. Not much has really come out from that. It's a possibility because otherwise they would have just kept him on IR, right? And at least given him like next year into training camp to kind of compete and then seeing what they could do then. Because they wouldn't have had to really pay him until the new league year, I guess. So maybe it doesn't make sense. Maybe that was like a cap saving move. I don't know. Interesting.
And they waived him. They didn't cut him. So like, if there's a parameter. Like, it would be interesting to see if anybody claims him, and if nobody claims him, if we put him on the practice squad.
Yeah,
just
I'm interested to see that too. Yeah,
You
I'm
know,
interested to see if that's the case too, because it definitely could happen.
because that would tell you more that it's more of a roster thing than it is like you're having to make a move on
Yeah.
somebody that's in there. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
It wouldn't surprise me, man, if a team like, I don't know, Kansas City signed him,
Of
or
course, they probably would.
you know, a team that could maybe use additional receiver help, like a pretty good contending team, because he's a vet. I mean, he you know, he's healthy. You know that he's you know, kind of what he can do. So I think I'd be surprised if he doesn't get claimed. But yeah, definitely still a possibility of getting these guys back on practice squad for sure. Do you feel like yesterday, like watching what Jaleel McLaughlin did, do you think that it was enough to kind of say, okay, let's just move forward with him as the lead back? Or do you think it was just one of those typical Broncos running back game where you're like, he just was the hot hand guy, so just kind of keep figuring it out?
I think he's a hot hand guy just because I don't think he can do everything. He's just not built for it. So I don't think he can be the lead back. Just from a physical standpoint, he's too small. Pass pro seems to be super, super important to Sean Payton, which I totally get with Bo Nix and a rookie quarterback, especially when you want to be able to spread, go 5 wide or do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And then you got to go, this is your last line of defense. You got to have somebody back there that can pick up a linebacker or something like that.
Yeah.
That was like Philip Lindsay's big downfall, was the fact that he just couldn't pick up. He just couldn't do everything, like what he could do was amazing, but what he couldn't do was like, there was a lot. So I just think he was the hot hand, and I think he definitely earned more reps. But if it's going to be like a 3rd and 7 and you're not going to him, you're probably not going to see. He's not going to be the guy. Estime is interesting. Estime had a game like this. Estime had a game like McLaughlin did, and then all of a sudden, then the snaps disappeared, and you're like,
yeah, it's really weird.
I don't get it.
It's really strange. I think, one thing I did notice is that it seems like Jaleel's made a lot of strides when it comes to his pass pro. I mean, he's definitely not ideal at it, but man, he had a couple blocks. One of them on a guy, I looked him up, and he was like 265-pound linebacker, and he held his own on it really, really well to be able to help, Bo. So he's definitely making some strides there. But I mean, I agree. I just feel like he's the only guy of these running backs that I feel like, man, he's a threat to take it to the house when he touches it. You know what I mean? He's got that kind of ability. And I think just the fact that he can do that and poses that kind of threat is super important for the offense. And they're getting so much better now as a staff of not making it seem so obvious that if Jaleel's on the field, he's going to get the ball. Because it used to be like before, it was like every time he's on the field, he's getting it.
Yeah.
But now that's not necessarily the case. So I guess we'll see it. This is one of those. It's one of those rooms, man. It's like nobody on earth. I don't even think Sean Payton can predict kind of what's going on there. So
I would like to know how much is that from the running backs coach, of just like a feel from the running backs coach going, I would give this guy reps tonight, or based off of this week in practice or whatever, or if it's a Sean thing or it's a game plan thing. I don't know. It's very weird because the rotation doesn't seem to make sense sometimes with you just saw somebody have a good game and then you just went away from him. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I mean, the real question is Javonte has now had another terrible week.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't just like poor, it was like negative.
Yeah.
Like, how is it even possible? So now it's like, I mean, if you don't start to see Estime now, I don't know what's going on, because, they're giving Javonte opportunities enough to be like, well, maybe you just had a bad game, or maybe it was just this or whatever. And now it's like stacking. And so I don't know. That's an interesting one to me.
Yeah, and it's weird. It seems like they come out, right, and they'll be dedicated to Javonte. They'll give him the first few carries. If they don't go well, he just pulls the plug. And I think, it's kind of unfortunate for Javonte, because I think one thing is I feel like he probably needs, 6-7 carries sometimes to really get going, which it's not a good thing, obviously, right? But it's also like, man, if he's not coming out hot right off the bat, they kind of just like fizzle him out and he disappears. Um, but it's weird. But you mean yesterday, even the snap counts. Go ahead and share the screen here so you can everybody can kind of take a look at it. But it's pretty interesting because even the snap counts, like for the last few weeks, it's been fairly consistent. There was a little bit of a dip here with Javante and more with Jaleel in terms of going up, but it's uh, take Michael Burton out of it. It's a 12%, 36%, 45% type of a split with these running backs, and it's pretty consistently down. So it's basically like Javante is getting 60%, Jaleel's getting 35%, and in terms of like the total snaps, and then the remaining a few carries there as estimate. It's just weird, but then in this game here in week 10, Estimate had this huge boost. He was the high, he had almost half the carries, and then it kind of decreased again. So it's just strange, man. I'm at the point now where I don't think that we can even predict it. But I didn't even know Blake Watson had one snap. That's kind of crazy. I didn't even know I ever saw the field. So there's that. Didn't know that was going on.
Maybe they let him when Bo Nix went out and downed it. They were like, go out there.
Yeah, go out there and ball out.
Exactly.
But yeah, and then even on defensively, man, like you look at the players of the game on defense, even though it was an ugly overall defensive performance. Obviously, Nick Bonito, right, and Jaquan McMillan. I mean, they were the guys that shined. Another young set of guys, and so this foundation. If you talked about like who are the foundational players, the guys you build the future around, who do you think those guys are?
On defense?
In general, I'd say for the whole team. But yeah, we can start with defense.
Starting with defense, right now, Zach Allen, Nick Bonito, Cooper, Pat, Riley, maybe JFM if they resign him. That would tell you a lot. Those would probably be the foundations, I would say, from all of them.
Guys, you can all feel like you could build around. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's an interesting conversation with like Cody Barton and Justin Sternad, right? Because I feel like they're guys that I would like to have back. I think they've played really well, but
Sternad especially has been really come out.
Yeah,
I really like he's brought a lot of intensity. He's been a really out of like the revelations going into this season, like people that you didn't know, it was a big question mark. He's one of the bigger ones that has been like really big because I don't think anybody going into the season was like, I think Justin Sternad's going to have a good year this year. Like, it was a total afterthought, and he's really played well. He's been hurt so much in his career leading up to this that it was just like people had completely just forgot about him. So big respect for his effort. He brings it too. He like will come and wall up a guy, and I just love that.
Yeah,
that
dude.
brings energy. You know what I mean? He's not
Yeah.
even the biggest linebacker, but like he comes, and when he comes, he's really flying to the ball, which I really like.
Yeah.
Cody Barton's kind of been like not. He's been fine. He's been solid, but not as good of as Alex Singleton would have been probably. But just like a slightly slower version, but like been fine, been good. I remember certain people from, I think he came from Seattle, and the Seattle fans were like, he sucks. Oh, he's going to be like, they were expecting him to do what Levi Wallace did last night, like all season, and he's been fine. And he's had some picks now. Like, that's nice because he hadn't even had any picks before that. So
yeah. I've been pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, exactly. I think the line is really the one that has really been we flipped why this team is now gone from being bad or in like last year our defensive line was probably the biggest problem besides if you want to say quarterback or whatever,
especially depth.
But right, and like it was DJ Jones and then just like guys who are probably third stringers, what it felt like. And they traded for JFM. That was huge. Zach Allen was like, he's had a monster year. And then you have people like Bonito and Cooper. So much to the fact that you're allowing, like, you're trading away Baron Browning. I didn't think people would expect that happen. And, I think Sean just has a nice, hopefully it works out. Like, sometimes it doesn't, but I think he's really likes the team. I think he likes the players and the team and the chemistry that he currently has, and he really doesn't want to mess with that. So when Baron Browning is like not one of your core guys and you guys are playing really well, is like, okay, well, we can let him walk, or we can let Josh Reynolds walk, or
Yeah.
whoever it is that would maybe break up some of the chemistry and like for playing time. He's been really confident in the fact that he's like, I don't want to change anything, and
Yeah.
I like that. But yeah, I mean, you can't say enough about Benito. I mean, when he got drafted, people were dogging that draft pick, especially for the first year. He didn't do a lot, and he came in undersized as kind of a situational like tweener type of guy, and he had more pressure on him. I've said this before. He had more pressure on him because he was the first pick we had that year
Mhm.
in the draft, but he
Yep.
wasn't drafted till like 64th or 60 something. And it was
Yeah.
like to not have an immediate impact from the first guy you draft, and that wasn't his fault. Like it was not his fault. We didn't have a first and second round pick or whatever,
Yeah.
or the end of the second, or whatever it was. And it was just like, he's had to take some time to like cook, but like now, man, he just looks. You don't want to say certain players because it's like disrespect. You can't say Drew Brees and Bo Nix together because
Yeah.
he's a Hall of Fame. You can't say Von Miller and Nick Bonito, but it's like, I don't know, like he's coming around corners like
He does,
people
man.
name start with a V. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying he's
Yeah.
as complete of a player, but like, dude, he's if we've the whole thing is like we needed a Batman. We had a bunch of Robins. That's what people were saying in the
Yep.
offseason.
Yep.
And it's like Zach Allen and Nick Bonito look like Batmans. When you look at other people's team, like Miles Garrett they didn't get sacked Bo Nix yesterday. Bo Nix does a really good job of evading pressure and
Yeah.
sliding left, sliding right, whatever he needs to do. Um, but Nick Bonito has had how many games with a sack this year? Like 10 or something? Like it's insane. Like I don't know, man. And then a pick six on top of that. And I think I mean, that was like unexpected. And I think to
Yeah.
do that on Monday Night Football, people are going to be like, oh my gosh. But just even forget that play. He's been amazing this year.
Yeah.
So
I
all
mean,
respect to Nick
I'll
Bonito.
say it. Like, listen, when people say, "Oh, do you think he could be the next Von Miller?" I'll say, "Yeah." Does that mean he's going to be a Super Bowl MVP? No. But when you look at the skill set and what the potential of like, he's still got a lot to go. Yeah, He's got Von Miller esque pass rushing ability. There's no doubt
Yep.
about it. His get off is unbelievable. His spin moves. Now he's getting a lot stronger. And Vaughn started his career very similarly, right? He was definitely more polished coming out of college. And Nick Benito did also have the injury he was battling when he got drafted, too. But Von Miller really didn't get going until year 3 or 4 when he started to blossom. And
He had that
so,
injury the year we lost the Super Bowl to Seattle, which people don't
yeah.
remember. Like, if we would have had full on Vaughn Super Bowl against Seattle and Chris Harris, that could have been a totally different game.
Oh,
But
God, we had a couple of the guys out, too, man.
it was insane.
Yeah, we had a lot of injuries that game. But yeah,
But
and so Dreamweaver here says Sean Payne, Coach of the Year. I think that's almost a lock, to be honest with you. I don't think there's much doubt about that. But man, you can really make the argument. I don't think Benito will even sniff like many votes in the Defensive Player of the Year voting, but you can certainly make the argument that he's in the conversation because he's top 2. I think he's still number 2 in sacks. He's like the number 1 in quarterback pressures, and he doesn't even play every down.
right.
So hell yeah, I'm down with that, man. And then vote for Rookie of the Year. I love that. So you already know that. I'm good with.
Yeah.
I think that that could happen. So we could definitely get 2 of the 3. But man, could you imagine Bonito at Defensive Player of the Year too? That would be wild.
Here's the thing. It's the whole thing with the refs too. It's just like these things come down to popularity contests and about national buzz. They don't come down to was this guy the best?
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
yeah.
So,
That's true.
do I think some people have it in for Sean Payton for whatever reason? I don't know if it's like New Orleans. I don't know what it was. Some people just don't like him. So, I mean, like they said in the broadcast last night, it's like, okay, you have Andy Reid. If you put him aside, who's better coach than Sean Payton and what he's done? Like,
Yeah,
this is why he's getting paid. That being said, they'll give it to somebody like, and I don't think it's a wrong choice either. I think people like Kevin O'Connell from Minnesota, what he's doing with Sam Darnold, crazy. Nobody
yeah.
thought that.
He's a
I
hell
mean,
of a
there
coach
are
too.
Yeah, Dan Campbell's taking the Lions to whatever. You can, I mean, there's other people you can say that, like, I wouldn't say it was a lock personally, but I mean, it's like, why? I mean, Sean's doing it with the rookie quarterback, which is even better, more hard, different than even Sam Darnold, who's like had to, had a year under Kyle Shanahan to kind of get right. Um, but Benito, I just don't think he's a household name enough. But man, I mean, I don't really care about the awards personally. Like, just
Yeah.
just there. It's about, and I don't think the guys care that much about it. I think Bo
No.
would, it's one of those things that's like it feels good. How many guys have made the Pro Bowl? How many guys are all pros? How many winning these awards? I mean, the question that comes down to Bo and Rookie of the Year for me is like they the Washington like market is so huge. You have no idea how big of a market that is. And Jaden Daniels came out so strong. And there are people that already just didn't like Bo for whatever reason. So you're having to flip like two narratives. You're having to go against a loved guy in a huge market on a favorite team versus a guy that everybody hated and some people still aren't coming around on Bo Nix, which is insane to me. But you know what I mean? Like, I love seeing like Monday Night Football when you're hearing Troy Aikman being like, "This guy's incredible," all the stuff, and you're just like, "Yeah, finally, thank you."
Yeah.
But the question that comes down to for Rookie of the Year for me is, if you could do it over again, and you had the number one pick in the draft, and you had your choice of Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, whoever, and you're Sean Payton and you're the Denver Broncos, and let's say you have the first pick, who are you picking? I think you're picking Bo Nix. For me,
it's hard to
that's
argue, man. And we talked about this at nauseum. You were the first guy. You're the one that put me on a Bo Nix back in January, and then by February I was all in as well. But the most important thing that, and we talked about this so much, it's only about fit. I don't care so much about like, oh, he's mobile. Oh, he's got a high ceiling. Oh, this and that. It's all about fit, and that's for every position, but especially with quarterback. And I agree with you. I think if Sean Payton had the number one pick and he could do the draft over again, he would take Bo because he's realizing he probably had that feeling like he knew this was going to be a really good fit going into the draft, but now he's like, holy shit, this is like a dream come true type of a fit for him. So
I totally agree.
but then again, like if they were to redo the draft and the Bears had the number one pick again, I don't know if they would go Bo. They might go Jaden Daniels, and then maybe the Commanders might go Caleb Williams because it's all about what they feel like the fit is, right? How would Bo fit with Cliff Kingsbury and those kinds of things. But
Exactly.
yeah,
But I'm
I
just
think
saying, like, yeah, for the people that want to like be like, oh, our guy's the best, or that guy's the best, or whoever's the best, it's like,
yeah,
just be happy that we got the guy that we would want. That's the really only thing. I don't care if Jaden has another, like a couple more touchdowns, or if Jaden wins the award over Bo, even though Bo maybe had a little more or whatever. It doesn't matter. We got the guy that we wanted and needed for this team, and that's the thing that's like, we already won that award. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Because for us, he's the guy we want.
Yeah, oddly enough, man, I don't really know if I care so much about Bo winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. Like the Pro Bowl voting, I can give a shit less about. By the way, I can't even believe not one Bronco player at any position was like leading in the Pro Bowl voting. And I get it. Like the Broncos have been very unpopular, rightfully so. We haven't made the playoffs in like basically a decade. So I get it. But like now that we're sniffing success and we're actually doing a lot of good things with it, I kind of like it, man. Like I don't like these lofty expectations like it used to be in the Peyton Manning. I mean, Peyton Manning days were amazing, but it was like, dude, just get me to the playoffs and then all the pressure's on those games. I kind of like just going into it as like, hey man, we're the we're the underdog and we're gonna stay humble and do our thing. So I don't really care so much about that either. DB94, Jeremy, I loved your comment on the JWL Bo Nix video. Nick Red as a clown. What's the JWL? Am I missing something?
There's a guy, a YouTuber, I think his name's Julian Lucas, and he's a big Bo Nix fan, and he'll do a clip of what the national media is saying, and then he'll like rant on it for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick Wrong, let's be honest.
God, he's like the worst, bro.
He's like the national version of Marilat, where he's just like he's now he's like professionally trying to like turn the screws on people. He knows. They're like laughing at his comments at this point. So today, the video was like, after last night's win, are you sold on him? It's been like every week, no matter what Bo Nix does, they do a part where they dedicate a whole segment of like, now are you sold? And he's like, no. And his whole point, he was being like, now he's like, it's not even like, here's why I'm going to try to frame it this way. He's got nothing to use. So his little comment today in the video that he had was, well, if you take away Bo Nix's like 93-yard touchdown and then the throws that he made to Cortland Sutton, then how good of a game did he have? And so my comment was, yeah, if you take Nick, saying if you take away Bo's great plays, then he's not a very good quarterback. And there you have it. It's like, you can't. Of course, you do that.
I know.
You know what I mean?
And
it's like
it's crazy because I know Nick Wright is somebody that's like he's just a player. Like he's just playing. He's a clown. Yeah. And that's what he does, just like Marilat. But there's a lot of people that are like that. They either buy into the narrative or they're just like that. I was writing back. This buddy of mine I used to work with. He always writes me on Snapchat. And at the beginning of the year, he's always like, "I thought you said Bo was supposed to be good." Blah blah blah. Then he went silent. And then so yesterday I wrote him. I'm like, "Bro, are you like, do you believe yet?" Like thinking he was gonna be like, "Oh hell yeah, I'm a believer." He's still, well, bro, we haven't beat any winning teams. He was wrong about that. Oh, but you act like he was the reason we won this game, blah blah blah. And I'm like, he's like, he threw two picks and one touchdown. I'm like, I literally was so exhausted. I didn't even care to like. But there's people that feed into that. That's why they have, that's why Nick Wrights and those guys have a job. He's getting paid millions of dollars to say some crazy stuff. But no, that's hilarious. I gotta go check that out.
Yeah,
I'll be right back. I gotta go put this thing away.
Okay. Yeah. So let me go to the comments here. I appreciate that, DB. Yeah, that was so ridiculous. He's
always coming in, man. Appreciate him.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He is like on it. I love it. Yeah. No, I mean, here's the thing. It's just like now that like a lot of the stuff from last night has died down, all the craziness, and it's very interesting to see like there's been more attention, and I mean, I guess it's Monday Night Football, more people, more eyeballs, whatever. But there's been more of like, Bo Nix is actually great, like from all these national people today. And it was like, I thought they were going to, I'm so like scarred by like everybody hating on him all the time that I thought they were going to be like, oh, like that, the guy you were texting, oh, 1 touchdown and 2 picks. How great is that? It was like, well, the freaking first pick was, dude, that's football though. Sometimes the first interception was like, if you watched it, Tim Jenkins did the breakdown. He had a perfect rep. Like he literally had a snap, floated to his right, like threw it low and away, put it exactly. The receiver, instead of like turning it tight, he kind of rounded it, let the guy get
I'm glad you brought that up. It was totally a bad route by Franklin. It was.
Yeah.
Totally.
And it was like, and it's like, and it pops straight up in the air and gets picked off. It was like, he did everything perfect and still turns into a pick. That's just football. That's just life. Sometimes you do exactly the right thing and you get hit by a butt. It's just that happens sometimes. Yeah. The second pick, Sean Payton was like, that was on me. He wanted the backbreaker, he just had a bad time. And you don't throw 50-50 balls up to Marvin Mims. If you would have thrown it up to Vele, if you would have thrown it up to Sutton, it would have been probably caught or it would have been incomplete at the very least. It just was a bad play, and there you go. Yeah, it was just a. Sean Payton we gave him so much credit the last few weeks of like game planning, and we said it last night. That was not his best.
No, I didn't mind I didn't mind the play calling for the most part, but the overall game plan, and the game management was a little bit off, but.
And Vance Joseph, obviously his worst. Like that was ridiculous. I still don't think we ever got a really good answer of like, why was Levi Wallace in there after you completely saw Jerry Jeudy run by him like the first 3 times? Why would you keep that up? It makes zero sense.
I'm curious about that too. And Dreamweaver, thanks for this. He said the Reynolds release helps the confidence of Franklin and Vele. We actually touched on this right when we started the stream. I think it definitely does, without a doubt. I think it's a really good move for the team. in the future, in the present and in the future, for sure. But it was funny because the same people, going back to what we were talking about, the same people that were talking about, oh well, yeah, one touchdown, 2 picks. I'm like, well, if you're gonna talk about stats, right, or those,
Mhm.
are you gonna mention that he had a unbelievable throw and completion to Vele when it broke down? That was on the 1 yard line that we ran in, and then
Mhm.
another broken down play, improvised throw to Franklin that he ran all the way down to the 1 yard line. So it's like, dude, they obviously could have been 3 touchdowns, but
Right.
it doesn't, like, that's why stats really 75% of the time is like the worst way to judge how somebody plays. Um,
And you want a stat. 7 of 11 on third down.
yeah.
That's there's a stat for you.
Well, those are stats that matter. Those are
right.
tangible stats that matter, because it's like, oh, it could have been 5 touchdowns, but they all were on the 1 yard line. You're not going to know that in the stats. But 7 of 11 on third down is like, all right, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, exactly. There's 3 times uh yeah, Vele could have scored, Franklin could have scored. He got tackled at the 1. And it's like that ends up being run in right after that, and it doesn't go for Bo Nix or whatever. So he could have either had 3 or 4 touchdowns and 2 picks. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, successful drives are successful drives, but 7 of 11 when people were like, he's not good under pressure. He's not good. It's like, I've still seen people in the last 2 weeks being like, oh, Bo Nix, if you watch him, he's not great under pressure. Like, you're not watching him. Like,
Yeah.
that is the worst take I've ever heard. Like, I've never seen a guy as calm as this. I mean, we've gone through how many quarterbacks in the last 10 years, guys who are supposed to be like veterans and like, retreads or whatever you want to do, Flacco's and Keenums and all like Bridgewater's. Bo's the most confident and calm one out of all of them. Like, I don't, so that's a ridiculous take. Um,
Against the really good Browns defense. I mean, say what you want. They held the Steelers to 19. They held the Ravens to 24. They held the Bengals to 21. They held the Eagles to 20. I mean,
yeah,
they've
sure.
had and they've had their duds, just like I think most defenses do. But for the most part, this is a good defense. And Jim Schwartz they mentioned it yesterday, I think he was like 8-18 against rookie quarterbacks in
Wow.
their start. And
Yeah,
he
Schwartz
didn't even blink,
and he's
man.
aggressive and he's aggressive.
He's
So
aggressive.
like you're not going to some of those throws that I mean, again, we've talked about this all year, but like it has to be said again on Monday Night Football in the clutch. How many times was it 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, and instead of running it, he's like, "No, I trust Bo more to make a good decision and hit
Yep.
somebody open," and he did. He kept hitting Sutton. He kept hitting guys. The one where, I mean, to start the second half, you're backed up 3rd and 11. You're at the 4, or no, you're at the set. I guess you'd be at the 7. You're having Bo roll to his right or whatever. Or no, I'm sorry. I was thinking about the touchdown to Mims, but the one where he rolled to his right and then hit Sutton on that one play where, I mean, he had to that was such a tough throw where he just
Oh yeah.
barely had to throw it
Later.
past the guy.
Yeah.
And the Jenkins angle that he did on the breakdown
Sweet.
was just like, he just almost walked off the camera. Like he was like, that was insane. That's an insane throw to be able to do that on third long. Like obviously the trust is there. And I mean, that should tell you everything. Like when it's 3rd and 2 and I'd rather have my quarterback and Troy Aikman was kept on saying that last night because they're putting it in the hands of the rookie.
Yeah. I think what I liked a lot about yesterday's game too, like the fact that I guess from a national television standpoint, was even though there was a lot of times where Bo would kind of recklessly just chuck the ball. He had one he threw it across his body. He had the interception of Mims. He had a couple where he was taking deep shots and had that gunslinger mentality. But it was kind of a way to show everybody that, hey, dude, you used to think I was this check down guy and I was gonna throw these screens. In fact, I'm gonna do the opposite now. And even if it's a bad decision, I'm just gonna do it almost to prove a point. Obviously, he wasn't doing it like that on purpose, but it was just nice to put it out there. He's throwing a lot more balls down the field and very, very well and very accurately than he is just checking it down. But when he needs to, he's still going to hit him with the checkdowns and all that good stuff as well. So
I don't think there's anybody in the league that has more 20-yard passes than he does.
No,
I'm,
no,
so it's just which
is
that whole game was a narrative breaker, and it was one of those ones where you learn like we said last night, have to learn how to win different types of games.
Mhm.
And when things are getting squirrely and it's loosey goosey, and you just got to have, taking, haymaker after haymaker after haymaker, like you just got to figure out how to beat that, win those games too. So I love it. I love the fact that the defense responded. I love the fact that the offense was confident. You kind of got everything you wanted. You got the lead taken away from you in the fourth quarter. You needed a drive by Bo Nix to go down and move the field. You needed him to make plays on third down to move those chains. He did all of those things. If Wattenberg doesn't miss a block, Mims scores the touchdown instead of getting a yard short, which ends up being the field goal, the go-ahead field goal.
Mhm.
And then you get the pressure put on your defense to stop them with 2-minute drive, and you got to have all the questions answered in one
Yep.
game. Can the defense make a big stop? Can the offense get a good drive? The answers were yes, yes, yes. So that's what was really good about that.
Yeah. No, no doubt about it. And I know earlier we had talked about like, who are the endoplasmic. Let's go, boys. DB94. I agree, Jeremy, an ugly one, but you can learn. But I learn from a loss, but it's final. Well, learn from, but a loss is final. Yeah, I mean, I love that. I think that learning from a win is the best. Learning like when you have a lot of bad tape like you did yesterday and you win, it's a really really good thing. Um,
Yeah.
but it's also there's been a lot of moments in this season that have taken place that I think as a result of bad losses or bad performances, the team's really rebounded really really well. And when I talked about earlier when I brought up who you think like the core players are, I think where I was going with it now that I kind of remember because we kind
Yeah.
of went down the rabbit hole like we like we tend to do here.
Every time. Yeah.
Um, is if you ask that question in the beginning of the year, you're sitting there saying to yourself, legitimately, you're like, who are the core franchise players of this team? And it was like Patrick Surtain and maybe Cortland Sutton. And I would even say you would say it was Cortland Sutton. It was literally just Patrick
Miners,
Surtain.
maybe.
Yeah.
Because you just
Yeah,
paid
yeah,
him.
yeah. Miners. That's a good one. Miners for sure. So like Miners and Cortland Sutton, and that's it. And now you're talking, 13 weeks in, you got legitimately maybe a dozen almost that you can make an argument for, right? Obviously, Bo Nix, certified baller. Miners, no doubt about it. Cortland Sutton, I think, has established himself as that piece. Vele is borderline there. You can see the potential there. And
He's
then,
coming.
you got Riley Moss, PS2.
Definitely.
I think Brandon Jones, right?
Brandon
Zach
Jones has
Allen for
been low
sure.
key great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And he's only 26. So it's like, holy hell, man.
Yeah.
We have
Wow.
gotten like
Jaquan.
Jaquan. I love Jay. You know me. That's my guy. I love
Mm-hmm.
Jaquan. And yeah, man. So it's like, whoa, where the hell did this come from? Like, it's crazy. And then all the vets that we had on last year on the team, they've even all gotten better. I mean, Zach Allen's taken a huge step forward. I think Bowles looks really, really good this year. McGlinchey looks significantly better this year.
Bowles
So
needs
the
to
only
be
guy that's
re-signed.
really taken a step back is probably like, probably Javante. To be honest with you, but everyone else has looked damn good, man. So
Right. No, I mean, and that's the thing. And I told the story before, but I'll retell it now that, this was a few months ago. Mike Shanahan back in the day, and then when he was building the team up from a team that was 4-12 or whatever it was under Wade Phillips, taking over a team in 1995 and bringing in the Ed McCaffreys, the Rod Smiths, the Terrell Davises, all these people that weren't have any expectations. And Shannon Sharp would always tell the story where he's like, Mike Shanahan every single day would tell us, this is the team, you are the players. I can have any players I want. You are the players that I picked because you were the ones that I believe in. And when you get told that enough times, you start to believe that. And Rod Smith and Ed McCaffrey and all these people start to emerge. And what I think Sean Payton has done this year is he was like, I'm going to be really tough on this team. I'm going to make some really bold choices. Goodbye, Russ. Goodbye, Justin Simmons. Goodbye. Like, we're turning pages franchise-wise. We're getting new leaders, new voices, and we're going to just completely – and I trust this team, the people that are – the young people, doesn't matter. These are the people we want. The Brandon Jones one is huge because The one move we made in the offseason when we let Justin Simmons go, and Justin Simmons sat on the market for months and months and months, the guy who we went after Brandon Jones day one. And that was a guy who was like, and you could be like, well, if there was a player that they liked, they could get him at half the cost. But it was like, no, but that also tells you, it's like, we would rather have this guy than at half the cost because we believe in the way he plays. And he's responded to that. He was kind of like not, a leader necessarily. I mean, he was a good player and situationally for the Dolphins, but now it's like he's a big role. And like last night when he went out, you texted like, oh crap, he's out. You know what I mean? Like you notice.
Oh, yeah.
He's a tone setter. And we have a lot of people like the whole conversation about who is the core players from 12 weeks ago to right now. That list has grown so much because so many people have stepped up.
Yeah.
And actually like made plays, made things happen. And there's still more people that can come. Troy Franklin's going to get better. Vele's going to get better.
Mims going to keep cooking.
Mims, like that was a big play for Mims too, because that wasn't just one of those gadget type of plays. That was just a straight go route. And it wasn't, it was just, I mean, again, that was the play. I knew that was going to be the one that people were going to like focus on because it was just like an amazing. I mean, we haven't seen a play like that since Peyton Manning probably.
Yeah.
And Peyton Manning definitely wasn't throwing that type of football.
No. There's maybe 5 quarterbacks completing that ball in the NFL.
We just even have like the freaking guts to do it. 3rd and 11. Like you posted something last week about the throw where Bo was rolling to his left and then torques his body and hits, I think it was Vele or whoever it was on the sideline. And I was like, the thing that's lost about, not only is that an amazing throw and it's like the arm angle, everything about it, but like the guts to be able to be like, I'm throwing this. Bo is playing with crazy confidence right now.
Crazy.
He's like ripping. If he sees something, he's ripping it, and it's like 9 out of 10 times it is on the guy, and that's just like what's amazing.
And he's honed those things in, right? I think early in the year, confidence was never a problem, but he was a little bit reckless. He was a little bit sped up in his mind. But now he's confident. But man, it looks good. It is looking good. And
you want your players to play with confidence, and like the defense has played with tons of confidence this year. I think it's good for the offense that they were in a situation where it was like, if we get to 21 points, we're probably good because the defense is so good. It was like, no, last night it was not going to be like that. You're going to have to like put up points. You're going to have to like respond. And that was what was so nice. It felt while watching that we were like losing that game sometimes when we were like basically up the whole time. But it's gotten to the point where, they have, I think that the national audience is now catching up, but like we're getting used to Bo Nix being good on 3rd down, where like now when he completes a pass on 3rd down and moves the chains, we're just like, yeah, that's what he does.
Yeah, if he doesn't, we're like, oh, what the hell?
Right. It's not like, yes, he did. Like, oh, great throw. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Bronco fans are now to the point where like, yeah, that's Bo Nix. That's what he does. So that's what's so exciting is we're now like, you can just see where this is going. It's like no longer are we thrilled by like subtle, like small successes. It's now we're like, we got to get this in the end zone. If we don't get this in, if we just have to settle for a field goal, you know what I mean? Like, no, like we want the same types of things that we had with under Peyton Manning or whatever is like, we expect this to end in a touchdown. We expect this to end like this way. And that tells you how far we've come.
No doubt. Well, I'm gonna end it on this. Unfortunately, I do gotta cut this a little bit early tonight, as I got some things I gotta go take care of. But the last 2 things that DB said. Firstly, he said we're expected to go 6-11 at best, right? And now we're sitting at 8-5. Coaching matters. Eye for talent matters 1,000%. And I think another thing that Sean Payton's done such a great job of doing is getting the right personality guys here, right? It might not even necessarily been like, oh, he felt like Jerry Jeudy wasn't a good fit for his offense. I think it was more of he's not the culture fit that we want, right? We don't want somebody that's pouting and crying if things don't necessarily go his way, as an example, right? And so he does a good job of bringing guys that are bought in, that like each other, that are having fun, and you can really see that. And then I don't even think this is really bold at all, DB. I've said it. I think Brandon Jones is definitely been better than Justin Simmons was, at least for the last couple of years. And I think he's arguably better than than Justin Simmons has been for most of his career here. I know that sounds crazy because it's not like Justin Simmons used to get a lot of picks, but guys, this dude is playing unbelievably well, man. He's playing some incredible football. Even the PFF grades will back it up for whatever that's worth. He's been killing it. He just got to find out a way to stay healthy. That's the only thing. But I agree, man. I think he's been awesome. And then from a cost standpoint, it's crazy how much of a discount. Plus, he's only 26 and not a lot of fat on the tires.
He's been an absolute tone setter, and I think that's exactly what Sean Payton wanted. I think, we all love and respect Justin Simmons. He was a very, very good player. I never thought he was like the best safety in the league or whatever. I personally don't like finesse safeties. I like tone setting safeties. I've always I guess when you grow up with Dennis Smith and Steve Atwater and those type of guys, you just get used to being like, we need somebody in the back that's going to knock somebody upside the head if they go across the middle. You just want that. And I know the leagues have changed and everything, but it's like, I don't want a guy politely tackling people. And then I just want TJ Ward. I want someone with some dog in him. That's what I want. And I think Sean Payton wanted that. And I think we needed that on the defense. I think our defense is so much more aggressive this year because of that. Yeah. And he's one of those main reasons. The thing with Jerry Jeudy that you just said, that's the other point I was about to say. He's not a fit character, or his personality wise. And Jerry, good on you, dude. I don't even have ill will against him or anything like that. I wish you would have been that motivated when you were on our team as opposed to when you were playing our team. But he kind of sounds like a guy or a woman who after they get divorced, she was, you get divorced and the guy was like, oh, I did everything perfect. And she was the one that was crazy or whatever. And it was like, you asked for the divorce and then you tried to act like it was a revenge game. It was like, we granted what you wanted and you weren't great. You were yes, we could have, maybe you should have got more targets or whatever, but you had a lot of drops. You had a lot of attitude. Steve Smith, you're barking at Steve Smith on the sideline. There's a million things going on, dude, that you didn't take any sort of responsibility for. So I would rather go with ride and die with a guy Vele or somebody like that going forward than somebody who was a little temperamental.
Yeah. I mean, I wish we got the Jeudy that we had yesterday, just from the standpoint of pumping it up and letting the crowd hear it.
That's the guy I wanted.
Not to take anything away from him, he balled, but
definitely,
bro, we didn't even bother covering him on a lot of the routes. We literally didn't even. We were like, nah, you're good, just run free.
That was a parting gift. A lot of that
was on us too. But,
Levi Wallace was his parting gift from the Denver Broncos. We're gonna make you look amazing.
I made a video earlier about he was unbelievably terrible, but. Anyways, I do got to run, man. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Thanks for doing this, Jeremy. This is always one of the highlights of my week, man. And guys, I linked Jeremy's YouTube account down below in the description. Be sure to check it out. Subscribe and follow. He's got, like I said, he was the originator of the Bo Nix train. He made a sweet Bo Nix highlights video you got to check out. So be sure to tune into that. But otherwise, hope you guys have a wonderful night, man. And go Broncos until next time. Peace out, everybody.
Go Broncos.